So, thank you. Welcome to members of the public. We go through the usual things. What we usually do with members of the public is ask you to speak first. We give you 3 minutes each. Then we ask you to, get on with the business. And what we might do, and I would ask the members of the committee if they're willing, to suspend standing orders and do the things, deal with the applications that people are here for out of order so that they can go home if they want to and we can ask them questions. Is the committee happy with that? Can I see hands up? Right, thank you. I also have to tell you that this meeting is being recorded because it's a Zoom meeting, and that it'll be available on YouTube. If people want to record in some different way, we will do what we can to make that possible. Though I don't know what we can do. Does anybody wish to do that? No. Good. One of these days, somebody's going to say yes, and we're going to be really stymied. So I'll just quickly go through the bits of business that will take a couple of minutes. Do we have any apologies for absence, Liz?
No, I don't.
Right. Do we have from members personal or pecuniary interests in any of these issues? I think Councillor East, eventually, you're a trustee of Honley Library, aren't you? So
I am, but I think the item's just a note, isn't it?
I think so, yes. Any officers, personal or pecuniary interests? Any applications?
No? Can I ask if Kath Bellamy's turned up?
She's not here yet, no.
Because she will be declaring the Civic Hall, I think.
Yes, she will, but she's not here, so.
All right, okay.
I'm sure, I imagine she's just a bit late or something, because she would have sent her apologies.
Not to worry.
But yes, you're right. We'll note her interest in the Civic Hall anyway, and then we're covered. So that's I'm just going through, that's the business. So since we've agreed to go out of order, I suggest we leave the minutes of the last meeting until the public have been able to talk to us. My first grant application, therefore, I'm suggesting we move to item 73, is Cartworth Cricket
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
We've got to on the rules. We do have to confirm the minutes. Then we do move on to other business.
Even though we've voted to change. Oh right.
You've got to do that. Then you can move on to other parts.
Okay. Are we all happy with those minutes? You've all had them. Will somebody propose approval of them? Thank you, Councillor Hogley. And seconded, Jason? Yeah, thank you.
Can I ask, first of all, did we get anything sorted out about the CCTV cameras in Honley?
Yeah, we paid that. We agreed to that grant, yeah.
Oh, so you didn't look into that work that I sent you, that I looked into for you?
That's coming up as a working party, Councillor Roberts. So that's coming up as a working party in a couple of weeks.
All right, okay.
Right, okay. So Cartworth Cricket Club. We've had this application. Would you like to talk about it, please?
Yes, briefly, if I may. Cartworth Moor Cricket Club is probably the highest cricket club in Yorkshire, and it's been going a long time, since 1897. It's had good times and bad times. 6 years ago, we were nearly forced to pack everything in. We couldn't get a team together, or two teams together, which you needed for the league. But the last 6 years has really seen the club turn around. We have a great number of new players come in. We've got enough to put two teams out every week. We've got some good ethnic diversity in that. And we've spent an awful lot of money on making the ground and the pavilion fit for use. The pavilion is old and it does need constant maintenance. And the grant that we're actually applying for now is to replace the single pane windows with double glazed ones with some security shutters outside so that you can actually go into the tea room and see outside. And we're looking to improve the security of the internals of the building by taking a couple of old doors out and putting 3 new, more solid and acceptable doors in, and a step down from the pavilion onto the field. And that's about it. The total grant that we're applying for is £2,000, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on that one.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Bill?
Yeah, can I ask how many quotes they've got, please?
For the doors, we've got 2 quotes, and for the windows, we've had 2 quotes as well.
Right, okay. You don't need planning permission then to change from single glaze to double?
I believe not, but we can certainly check that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay, I will now ask Haydedge Band to say their piece.
Chair, Councillor Carray's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Doug's. You mute.
Yeah, no, so I have to unmute myself. Sorry, Chair, I'm a bit confused about the process that we're going through, because when you said, are we going to make a decision one by one, normally we've had people speak to their applications and then the committee's sort of looked at all the applications, because one of the, and I don't know if this is an issue tonight, but sometimes we've got more applications than we've got money. So we can't approve the first one because we might get to the last one and all the money's run out. Yeah. So there is there's potentially a problem. But also we're in new territory as members of
I'm not proposing that we do them one by one. I'm proposing that we hear each member of the public.
Oh, and then we move on to discuss.
And then move on to discuss them.
I misunderstood you, Pat.
Councillors can ask questions while the members of the public are having their time.
That's absolutely fine. Thank you for that.
Sorry. So, Haydedge Band.
Good evening, everyone. I'm the chairman of Haydedge Band. And currently the Haydedge Band room is used by Trinity Examination Board for holding examinations for brass pupils and wind instruments from the whole of the Holme and Colne Valley area. We are required to provide a piano of a decent quality for examinations. What Trinity Examinations have said, they've been using us for the last 4 or 5 years, 3 times a year, and on average 60 or 70 pupils go through on only one day's examinations. What they cannot allow us to do at Haydedge is for examinations grades 7, 8 plus, because the piano we have currently is not up to standard for grade 7 plus examinations for either brass or wind. So our grant is to seeking to replace the existing piano with a piano that we can upgrade to allow for examinations 7 and 8 plus and above, and also that will mean we get more pupils through. In addition to having Trinity using the building already, we've had inquiries from ABRSM, or the other examination body, and also from Kirklees Music School, who would also like to use Haydedge Band Room for examinations within the Holme Valley. At the moment, those 2 examination people will not use the band room because the piano is not up to standard. So our request for a grant is to upgrade the piano so we can allow more people from the Holme Valley to come to our centre for examinations. At the moment, anyone grade 7 and above, and also ABRSM and Musica have to go to either Batley or Halifax for their examinations. We would obviously like to use Haydedge Band and bring it into the Holme Valley.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Robert? Doug's, you're mute.
Hi, Robert. I mean, the first thing that jumped out on your application was obviously the large amount of reserves that you're holding. And obviously it's been a difficult year, and that's going to be the same with a lot of the applicants today from people who run community buildings. What I perhaps hadn't appreciated when I read through is just, this isn't really for your band players. This is really for the people who are using the band room, isn't it? And obviously I can see the benefit of having a high quality piano to enable that. Do those other bodies that use the band room make any contribution towards rental costs when they're actually running exams in your centre, or is that something you give them free of charge?
No, Trinity Examinations actually pay us for the use of the building for a full day examinations. We charge them per hour, and as you say, we're using the band room during the day when it's not being used by the band, so it is being used for other activities for the community. ABRSM would also pay, and also Musica again would also pay the moment they go to Armitage Bridge Centre. They would like to use us in the Home Valley. So yes, they would pay for the facilities that we provide them with, yes.
So arguably there is some extra income stream comes in if you have a better piano, effectively.
Yes, they'll be using it on different days to Trinity. So again, on average, Trinity use it 3 times a year. ABRSM probably would do the same, and Musica would obviously arrange their own examinations for their own pupils from all the different music centres. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
The next one is Honley Village Trust for roof repairs.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Margaret Rayner. I'm the secretary of the Honley Village Community Trust. We are responsible for maintaining the land and the dam at Magdale Fields and also the village hall. Before the virus struck, we had a building survey by Bolton's to look at the village hall, which obviously takes quite a lot of maintenance, as does the land and the dam. So the grant that we've asked for is to start the maintenance by starting with the roof, which requires repair. The village hall, under normal circumstances, is used by many different local groups. Obviously, at the moment, that's not happening because of the restrictions. It is, however, being used at the moment as a vaccination centre by the NHS because the trustees felt that this was a good community use of the village hall. The future is very uncertain. We are hoping that all our normal users will return when that is possible to do so. We have quite a few people who use it not on a regular basis for birthday parties, miscellaneous lettings, community and charity events, as well as using it ourselves to raise money. But we did lose one of our regular people just before the virus hit. So we're very much looking via the webpage, via the village and via the flyer to try to fill, you know, the gaps that we've got when that becomes possible.
Thank you, Margaret. Does anybody have any questions to ask about Honley Village Hall?
How many quotes have you got for this job, love?
We haven't started on that yet because until the NHS move, we cannot access the building. The NHS have it at the moment.
Yes,
yeah. The vaccination centre. We have been approaching people for quotes, but we haven't gone very far down that route yet.
Right.
And we would obviously make sure that we had, I think our constitution asks for 3 quotes.
That's
before
right.
we decide which one is feasible. We have made tentative inquiries of businesses in the village and round and about to ask if they would be prepared to give us quotes when it went a bit nearer the time.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Has anybody got any other questions? No? The next one I've got is Friends of Netherton School. Have we got anybody here from Friends of Netherton School? No.
I don't think so.
Upper Thong Village Hall?
No, she's not coming either, Pat.
Right. River Home Connections?
Yeah, we've got Simon.
Good evening. Hi.
Right.
So we'd like to apply for a grant for the Riverside Way project. I think you probably all know the Riverside Way, but it's an orderly footpath that runs from Digley Dam all the way down to Huddersfield. And we're wanting, basically, it was a lot of work was done back in the year 2000. So obviously that's 20 years ago now. And a lot of it's the actual infrastructures had no major investments since. So we'd like to start the phase one of this project, basically improving the route for the whole community to use. We appointed a consultant to carry out an infrastructure audit last September, and they came up with some major recommendations for the route, and a lot of it was just basic way marking that was required for the route. So just basic signage, just so people are more aware of the route and can follow the route more easily when they're actually walking it. So so our project, we're hoping to get a grant for new way marking signs, so we can redo the route within the Home Valley Parish Council area, which is kind of Magdale up to home Digley Dam. Also consult with existing user groups, consult with the local community on the new designs. We've got some two outline designs for the new options for the way marking for the route. So there's a dipper and a kingfisher, which are riverside birds. And also we'll start working on a new walking map for the route, because the existing map's quite out of date now and it's out of print as well. So and also carry out land registry searches so we can obtain permission from the appropriate landowners when we're doing all the work. So yeah, is that...
Thank you. Are there any questions for Simon? No. Okay. Then the next one I have is...
Just a minute, please. Can I ask if this Riverside Way, does it go actually on the side of the river?
Yeah, the vast majority of it does. It has to loop around some spots. It's not, I think when they originally did the route 20 years ago, they couldn't get access along the whole river corridor due to some landowners not wanting the footpath and things like that. But the vast majority, it follows the river or nice green space through the Home Valley.
And do we have anybody that contributes through a riparian ownership?
Not that I know of. No, I don't think so. No, it's no. They don't, because to
there should be, if they want it, if it wants to be tidied up, surely to goodness they ought to make a little bit of a contribution for people to be able to use the footpath safely. And if they own right to the riverside, they are what they call the riparian owners. Yeah,
it's a good question. I think it'd be very hard to get any money from the landowners, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not sure about the legal position, but yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think thank you, Councillor Roberts. Yeah. There are other people you've raised the point, and I think desirable though it would be, I don't think we can force them to pay, and we want the path probably. Jason, I can see your hand. Councillor Brooke. Yeah,
just two things here, Simon. I've noticed on your current financial reserves account prospective suspension for these, it says you've got 3 months core budget, but you've got 10.5 to wind up charity if necessary. How prominent is that? And also, you've also got staff time for wages as well on your application.
Yeah, could you repeat the first question? Sorry, I missed that. I missed the last point. Sorry.
Yeah, on the finances, you've got 3 months core budget at 6k and River Steward budget at 10.5 to wind up charity if necessary.
Yeah. How
possible is that?
Well, we set out our financial forecasting going forward. I don't know if you saw that document. I sent that to Liz. So I think it's very, very, very unlikely. We've got future funding for the next 2 to 3 years through different pots of money. People like Yorkshire Water have given us grants for multi-year projects going forward. So, and we've also got we do Japanese knotweed work on the river where we get some income in every year. So it's very, very unlikely for us to fold the charity. We've been going for 5.5 years now, so we're well established.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
The only other one I've got to ask though is he's got staff time for Waymaker installation and route improvement of £1,500.
Yeah.
We don't pay for staff's wages.
Oh, no.
Can I intervene here? We are allowed to. We haven't as a matter of precedent, but we are allowed to.
We've never had them before, Pat.
That may be true, but we are allowed to if we wish to. Councillor Hogley.
I was just going to say the nature of the projects that we have given
We'll be
grants
very
to
careful.
is often
Councillor Roberts, Councillor Hogley is speaking.
Sorry.
I was just going to say the nature of some of the projects that we're supporting inherently mean that we are paying the wages of people who are project managing those projects, which is an integral part of the project. So it doesn't necessarily preclude it.
Yeah. I've got Judith wanting to speak on this.
Chair, just to say, I don't know whether the process has changed, but certainly you've granted wage costs to the Civic Hall in the past.
Yeah. So so Jason, in answer to your question, we can if we wish to. We may decide that it's appropriate for some projects and not for others. That's for us to decide, but we can if we wish to. Are there any other questions for Simon?
Well, I think if you start paying wages out, you'll be running away without money.
That isn't a question for Simon. We'll come back to discuss these grants when the public has gone. Are there any questions for Simon? Thank you, Simon. And that brings us to Judith.
Thank you, Chair. I think the £10,000 grant is the first one you've got on the agenda this evening. I'm Judith Patrick. As most of you know, I'm chair of Home First Civic Hall Community Trust. We've now been running, just coming up to our 4th anniversary. The grant that we've put in for the £10,000 is actually to use monies which I understand were allocated at the start of the pandemic towards the Civic Hall for any incidentals occurring from the pandemic. The good news is we've done very well in attracting other grants to support us through that process. But one matter that has arisen is the fire doors to the main hall have become very rotten and aren't holding and are causing unnecessary activations on the intruder alarm. We're lucky enough that our staff have turned out to attend to those intruder alarm responses, but obviously it's only a matter of time before perhaps somebody gets in and causes more damage in the building as a result. We have got 4 quotes for those doors to be replaced.
Thank you. Do you want to do your other one while you're performing?
So the £10,000 grant is for this financial year. The second grant application we've put in is for additional costs towards the major capital project that the Parish Council has already awarded 1 grant towards. For information for all, that's basically a complete reordering of male, female and disabled toilets, creation of a staff office, creation of an external storeroom to move the Art Week boards into there and to free up additional rooms that will then be lettable as a result. We estimated costs through our architect and project manager some 2 years ago now, which came in at £100,000, incorporating the fire escape from the Parish Council office. Unfortunately, with COVID and the gap in time, our costs are now coming in at 118,000 plus VAT. Some of the VAT will be recoverable, but not all of it. So we have a deficit in the project, which is the additional 30,000 that we're approaching the Parish Council for. We're looking at other grant opportunities as well, it's fair to say, to be able to do that. Obviously, it's more attractive to do all of those works in one phase rather than phasing them into 2 or 3. It just keeps the costs down and keeps the contractor on site throughout that process. The works are now fully tendered. We approached 7 companies, shortlisted, 4 applied, and we have shortlisted down to 2. We should make the appointment on Thursday evening of the preferred contractor.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for Judith on, shall we deal with the fire doors first and then deal with the development of the loo? Any questions on the fire doors? 10,000 for the fire doors.
Can I just clarify something that Judith said? It's not the money that's remaining from the COVID precautions. It's actually money that was earmarked for the community civic hall for this year. So that's where that 10,000 is still in our budget and hasn't been spent.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Any questions on the development of the loos and the storage area and whatnot? No? Okay, thank you, Judith. The final grant is Hepworth Nursery. Is anybody here from Hepworth Nursery?
No, we haven't got a representative.
Tom?
I'd like to declare an interest in Hepworth Preschool because my mum works for them.
Right. Okay. Cass, by the way, in your absence, we noted your interest in the Civic Hall. Okay. What we usually do now is ask our applicants to leave us. We discuss and we'll be in touch with you as soon as possible, probably tomorrow, to tell you what our decisions have been.
Can I just say, Councillor Colling, that people are welcome to stay if they like to. We do discuss grants in front
yes, we're not doing it in secret. That's true.
So you're all welcome to stay if you want to.
Okay, so to go back to the top then, now that we've done that, and the first one was the cricket club, the shutters and windows in the cricket pavilion. Liz, I'm going mad. We have seen this expression of interest before, haven't we?
We saw the expression of interest. What we now have is the proper full application in front of us.
And we approved the expression of interest, did we not?
Well, it was one of the ones that we recommended to come forward. Yeah.
Right. So
all the ones that are in orange on our sheet. The visitors haven't got the sheet, but the councillors have, and they're colour coded. So all the orange ones are ones that we've previously looked at and were interested in granting the money.
Right. So is there anybody on any councillor who wishes to change their mind about our previous feeling that this was one we would approve? No. Would somebody move then that we grant this application? Thank you, Mary. And seconded by Councillor Hogley, thank you. And that one's granted. The second one was the Haybed piano. And again, we've seen this before and as an expression of interest and felt it was appropriate. Has anybody got further points to raise on that? No. Is there anybody who has concerns about it or any points they want to raise? No. Would somebody like to propose that we approve it?
Doug's has got an issue.
Sorry, Doug's. You're mute.
It's less of an issue, it's more of a comment really. I mean clearly the provision of the piano is going to enable them to generate some more income, but I know all the money that is raised in rental will go back into the band room. The band room's bringing success. It's a fantastic community facility. So although this technically isn't really for the band room, it's just something that happens to be in the band room, but it does deliver an income to the band room, but I still support it. But I do think when organisations are carrying reserves of that amount, we do need to be quite cautious, but because this isn't really for band room activity, I'm relaxed about it.
Okay, thank you. And your point's well made. I take your point. So could somebody propose that we, thank you, Councillor Hogley, seconded by Councillor Carr? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. And I'm assuming there are no against, since nobody's had anything to say against. Homley Village Trust. Sorry.
Chair, can I just check something? My understanding is that all these grants will come out of next year's budget, not this year's budget. Can I just check that and make sure everyone's aware of that?
Yeah.
Because we've already spent up our budget for this year, so we're taking it from next year, which I assume slightly affects the timing with which any grant recipients will receive their funding. I know we're not
Oh,
far
yes.
away from April, but I just want
Yes,
people.
it'll be April, of course. Yeah, thank you.
Except for the Civic Hall, if they were successful with their £10,000 grant, that would come out of this year's budget.
Yeah.
And the 30 out of next, yeah.
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 So can I ask, please, are we refusing the grant for the band?
No, we've just proposed and approved it.
Right, it's not a right good connection, you see, so it's getting a bit bitty and batty, and I'm not right sure just what's being said. So
right,
I
okay.
apologise, keep butting in.
Okay, I'll try. I'll shout at you, Judith, and make sure you hear us. I don't mean at you. I mean for you. Honley Village Hall Trust roof repairs again. Unless I'm wrong, Liz, we saw this as an expression of interest.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, I'm not too sure we can give them a grant if they've got the quotes.
We have got one quote for the Village Hall. I think I'm right, aren't I, Margaret?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got one set of quotes for the hall roof.
COVID-19, but they couldn't get any quotes into the COVID and finished, and the NHS left the building.
The original estimate of the cost of it was given by Bolton's because they did a full survey of the Village Hall and they broke down costs of all the items that they felt needed repair or replacement. So at the moment on the expression of interest and on the grant form, I put down the way they had broken up the £5,000 to do the roof.
Yeah.
As I say, we have spoken to various people in the village, but we haven't got specific quotes because we are well, Bolton's is a pretty good guidance, I would have thought, of what they estimated it should cost. But also because of the centre being used for COVID, we are not allowed even in the building or anywhere near it until the NHS have finished the vaccination programme there. And then we're going to have to start again, really. But we want to get it done as soon as possible to make the building secure so that we can continue to let it out to the community.
Jason?
Yeah, I do appreciate that, but the point I was making is that till she gets those quotes, we don't know exactly what the price is going to be. She's only had like an estimate of photographs.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So we can't, at the moment, we can maybe do it in principle, but we can't do a proper proposal.
That's what I would suggest.
I think we can, because it's only when the council spends money that we have to have 3 quotes. And any organisation that comes to us only has to have 1 quote or 1 set of guidance about the cost of a project.
As the lady said, though, it was done by photograph. It was not a proper quote.
Listen, hang on. Can we stop this? Can we stop this altogether? We've approved it in principle when it was an expression of interest, and we're approving it in principle again. They won't start the work till they've got a quote, and they can let us know the exact amount at that point. But I think we can approve it in principle, can we not? Right. Would somebody, is anybody concerned that we shouldn't be giving this? Are there doubts about its validity or anything? No. In which case, Councillor Hodley.
Sorry, I think, yes, we can. I'm quite happy with agreeing in principle, but in practice, that means that we won't be writing a cheque for £5,000 on the 1st of April to be sent through to them, because we're saying that we want to wait until the final quotations have been able to be done. So I think I'm happy to do that, given that these it'll obviously take a while before those quotes can be done. I'd be minded to support it in principle, but not award the money until we get confirmation of the exact cost of the quote.
Which is, I mean, you're not even going to be back in the Village Hall by the 1st of April, are you? So it's...
Well, the NHS have leased the hall for 3 months from January, which comes out at the end of March, but with an option to take it right through to June. So I suppose it depends on the rollout of the vaccination, and it's looking to me from what we see on the news, but I haven't got any specific information, that it's more likely to be the end of June as they try to make sure everybody's happy.
I think we can approve the principle, but now what I'll ask other councillors' advice on this. Can we approve this in principle and empower the clerk to pay it when she sees a proper amount that's arisen from estimates rather than an estate agent, we don't have to bring it back to the full council, the full cask again, do we?
Can I just say though, Councillor Colin, that the next cask is the 17th of May, and I think it's very unlikely we'll have the money in our hands until then anyway. So why don't we just confirm it on the 17th of May? If there's a quote in by then, we'll confirm it on the 17th of May, and we'll work out. Okay, fine. Could somebody propose that? Thank you, Councillor Brooke, and seconded Councillor Dixon. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Friends of Netherthong School, we haven't got anybody here. They are wanting money. Have we looked at this in principle, Liz?
Pardon?
Have we looked at this in principle?
Yeah, this is another expression of interest one that we looked at in September.
We looked at this and it was going to be used by the wider community. It wasn't just for the school. And we approved this expression of interest for £5,000 earlier in the year when we did that. So it's towards the total cost. Councillor Hogley.
I was just going to say I'd like to propose that we award them the £5,000. I think in exercise and improving facilities for outdoor exercise is particularly important in this COVID period, and the sooner they can get started with the project, the better, really.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Chair. My only, it's again, I support this, but I would want the people of Netherthong to know that's been funded by the parish and it is an accessible track that they can use. They have said in their application it's open to the public. I'm not familiar with the site, but I think there's a lot of people have got into exercise recently, and if they think they've got a facility on the doorstep and they know about it and they know they're allowed to use it rather they can just sneak in, then that's all good. But they haven't really said anything in the application other than saying it is open to the public.
Councillor Brooke, I've got you there. I just want to have a quick word. Liz, you looked into this in some detail to check that it was publicly available, didn't you? Because you and I had thought, hang on, is this just for the school?
They have said that it will be available for community use outside school hours. Yeah.
I think Councillor Carl's point is a good one, that the public should be made aware that they are welcome to use it. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, coming in from Councillor Charles with comment. In the past, we have put plaques and things like that to advertise that money's been donated from the parish council.
Yeah.
Do we know if they're going to put any like placards or anything around the running track, or is it just going to be like a field with a running track on? Because if we are putting some sort of advertising boards around the air, maybe we could put something in one of those boards.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Councillor Blacker, have you got your hand up? Yeah.
I do. I did. I think there's some suggestion in the application that Kirklees may be providing some cost, or it's a possibility.
Yeah.
So obviously the grant would be would we need a rethink, or are you going to give the £5,000 anyway towards it?
Well, if Kirklees give them the whole amount, then we won't give them £5,000. I think we need to keep an eye on it. And I think that's very pending. I'm sure Liz will stay on top of that to see where it's got to and what's happening. And but we will make sure we don't pay in addition to Kirklees Camp. And sorry. So, Councillor Hogley, sorry. You made a proposal.
Sorry, I was just going to say. Sorry, I was just going to say on the if a organisation does apply for grants from multiple places, we have had instances before where they've been successful with a larger grant from somewhere else, in which case we expect them to notify us and offer to return said monies. We've done that before.
Now, I've no doubt that they would. You have already made the proposal. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Carried. Okay.
Can I just say that that Netherthong doesn't have any sports facilities other than what they're asking for at all. There's nothing within the village itself apart from a small children's area for slides and such things. But other than that, there's nothing else in the village whatsoever. So it is something that would be of great use, I think.
Right, thank you. That brings us to Upper Thong Village Hall. And again, we already, we approved this as an expression of interest because it was, you know, it was, there was a whole, they had a whole menu of things they're going to do, and we chose the roof because it would fulfill our green agenda, and because it was heat retaining and whatnot.
It was what?
It
Because the
retains
roof
heat.
is-
Judith, what? Sorry, what do you want to know?
What did you say about the roof? It's what?
We out of their menu of things they're doing to the hall, we chose the roof because it's a green initiative.
Right.
So it's only money towards. We don't need an estimate because it isn't the whole amount. So I'm asked, will somebody propose that we? Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Hogley proposed. Councillor Brooke has seconded that we approve this. Can I see all those in favour?
Yeah. It is it's
Councillor Roberts, I can't. Councillor Roberts, you've got a bit of paper in front of your camera. We can't see you or your hat. Thank you. What were you saying?
I'm just saying that it is a stone slate roof is this roof, and will still be a stone slate roof, won't it?
Yes, yes. They're not. I mean, that's for planning committee rather than CASC.
Yeah, but we will still want to make sure that it's the right type of covering on it, as opposed to something that's out of keeping within the area. Because
well, that would go to that. Yeah, that would go to planning committee. That isn't the job of CASC. I'm sure Councillor Blacker will keep her eyes peeled for what kind of roof they apply for. Can we move to the vote? All those in favour? All those against? Abstentions? Thank you. Carried. Civic Hall, yes? No, River Home. Again, we've seen this before, and we didn't. Councillor Roberts, it would be easier if you didn't keep putting bits of paper in front of the camera. Thank you. We've seen the river proposal before, and we've heard the discussion of various aspects of it.
Oh,
are there people with concerns about this, or questions, or queries, or whatever? No. Can I see can somebody propose this? Thank you, Councillor Carr. Seconded, Councillor Brooke. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against?
What's this for? The Riverside Way?
Yes. Are you in favour of it, Judith?
Well, I'm just looking. It's nothing to do with what these chappies were doing, where they were creating this, these way markers, is it? This Riverside Way revamp phase 1. It isn't the same as that, is it?
Yeah,
yes, it is.
Well, if you look, they've had an awful lot of money over the years, haven't they? And they've only been going about 5 years, haven't they?
Okay, well, let's move to a vote. I note your point. All those in favour? 1, 2. Councillor Roberts, hang on, we're in the middle of a vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those against? Abstentions? Right, so that's carried. And
I think you're just rushing some of these things through, Councillor Collins.
Well, we discussed them all at the last meeting when we discussed all the expressions of interest. We went through them in quite some detail, and we talked about the pros and cons, We went through,
Well,
particularly
maybe we
on the-
didn't have all the details that we have now, and as I say,
yes, we did,
the
more or
Riverside
less. I'm
had-
sorry,
have
I'm
a
sorry,
tremendous amount of money.
we did have more or less all the details we've got now. The expressions of interest, most of them were more or less applications. Some of them were applications. So we have seen all of this before. We've seen the river, we've seen all of the stuff you've raised questions on before.
Oh, no, probably we have, but over the years, as I said, they've had a tremendous amount of money.
Yes, but I resent your suggestion that I'm rushing things through without the opportunity to speak about them. We are spending plenty of time speaking about them now, and we have spoken about them before. I've got Councillor Dixon, then Councillor Brooke.
Just because a group has been successful in getting grants from other bodies and doing things like that isn't the reason why we should give them grants. If anything, we should applaud them for getting the money and for doing the good work that they are doing throughout the valley. So
I've just been looking.
rather than being against them.
Councillor Roberts, you have already spoken. We only speak once to a topic.
I'd also like to say as well, I think the chair's doing a good job as well and isn't rushing through them. I think we are all being given a chance to discuss them. And if somebody proposes it and somebody seconds it, and it should go to a vote. So the chair's doing a good job.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it doesn't matter what they've had in the past. This is for it's a new application for a new grant. We take on its merit, not what's gone on in the past. We've took it on the merit of what they're applying for. Well done, Pat. You're handling your situation very well here. And I can suggest that Councillor Roberts puts herself on mute so that she doesn't disturb the meeting until she's required to speak, because this is getting very annoying.
Right, let's move on to the next application, which I think is, it's the Civic Hall, it's the fire doors first. And that will come out of this year's grant, not next year's grant. And Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, I'm quite happy to support this because it's a parish council that has it, and I think, as we said in the past, that things like this we need to move forward quickly because it is our own asset we're looking after. So I'd like to propose that we go ahead of this, please.
Right, do we have a seconder? Councillor Hogley, thank you. Although, does anybody want to speak against? I'm sorry. Anybody concerned or have questions? Councillor Roberts, are you okay with this?
Yes, I'm all right with it.
Right, thank you. Okay, I think we can move to a vote. All those in favour? Everybody. Right, thank you.
It's no good having a hole without any doors that don't shut.
That's absolutely true. And then the second Civic Hall one, which will be from next year's grant, which is money for upgrading the loos and creating storage space and more lettable space. Councillor Brooke.
Once again, I'd like to propose this. As I say, it's our asset and we need to get it run right and move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I like Jason. I've got no problem with this work and it all needs doing because the toilets are all faulty and loads of problems with them and all that. I was just wanting to check. We do have this in the budget for next year.
We have got 30,000 earmarked for the Civic Centre here.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Then I'll second that.
It's in earmarked reserves for the Civic Centre.
Yep, I'll second that, and hopefully the Civic Hall won't need any more money until the following year because that's our budget done. Judith's smiling, so I take it that's the case.
Though it is, it's worth saying that Councillor Hogley is talking with Judith, and I'm interested in being involved in this, at having some sort of review, given that we own this building, whether we should bite on whether there are things that need doing that would enable it to make money that we might consider spending more than we're expecting, if you know what I mean. It's a discussion worth having. Councillor Hogley, you've got your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to check, obviously this grant for £30,000 and the one for £10,000 will need to be ratified at full council because they're above the CASC £5,000 limit. So just to make everyone aware of that. So it's fine, we're making a recommendation for it, but we just need to make sure that's understood.
The CASC 5,000 limit isn't a council limit, it's a self-imposed one, isn't it?
No.
No, financial regulations.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought we'd set ourselves the limit of 5,000.
Well, only so that it would save us having to take that argument further to a
Right.
bigger audience. Yeah.
I'm with you. Yes. So yes, subject to ratification, they are approved by us.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the last one, which is Hepworth Nursery for the outdoor play area. Now, I don't know whether this is available. Liz and I have had a conversation about this, and we're not sure if it's available for the rest of the community, because clearly while the children are in there, it has to be closed and secure. Councillor Dixon.
I have declared an interest, but I could probably answer some questions on behalf of the playgroup.
Yeah.
This is just the current outdoor area is getting past its use by date and needs replacing, and it's been well used for the last 10 years, like by the kids, like when they're all there. You're correct. It would be gated off. It's round at the back of the Hepworth Village Hall, and it would be gated off. Normal times, people wouldn't be using it. It's only for use when the kids are at the playgroup.
Right. And isn't a playgroup, is a playgroup like a nursery? Is it education?
No.
Yeah, it kind of is. And it's also like, they also use it as an after school club as well for the kids from Hepworth.
All right.
But you use that to increase, there was a time when there wasn't many kids in the village. So use it as an after school club for the kids after school. They walk up to the playgroup and go there. It is educational. It's kind of like a nursery, I suppose, but it is educational.
I suppose what's the question I'm asking you? I've seen you, Councillor Brooke. I will come to you in a moment. The question I'm asking you is it because that accepting, although it is possible for us to make exceptions, we don't give to schools.
It's not really a school though. It is a charity that runs it. It's a charity that funds that does run the playgroup. It's not like an educational school. I think they do have Ofsted that's been there before and had reports done for it, but I don't know. I couldn't go into the detail about it, about how it's all set up and all that. Sorry, I don't know all that.
Right. I'll Councillor Brooks and Councillor Carr.
Yeah, we've done this type of grant before. Well, yeah, we've done this grant before for the school in Holmfirth, for the playground area. You know, the one up the hill from the Atlantis chip, Atlantis. So we have done this type of grant before. So the precedent has been set for playgrounds or in the community. So on that basis, you know, we should be accepting it.
Right. Okay. And Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the main problems with why this is an outlier compared to the others is because it wasn't discussed previously. It's not part of our plan.
Yes.
We haven't really ring-fenced or set a budget around it.
No, we haven't.
And to give, and also they're put in for £10,000 and everybody else was effectively capped at 5.
Yes.
So really, I think this should go forward to the next. Now we're moving to a new system where we're only going to make grants twice a year. I think this should be considered alongside others in the September round. Really, it'd be a much fairer way to do it.
Yeah.
And I do think again they're going to have to. I would need convincing about the broader community benefit, because it is a space that's exclusively used by young people and young people who are actually paying users of that facility. So it's not. It feels very different to the others, but because we haven't seen it, haven't discussed it, haven't planned for it, I don't think we can make a decision on this tonight. I don't think we should.
Okay. What, Councillor Hodgley?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Councillor Carey just said in terms of deferring it till the kind of review of next year's applications. But I think we should go back to them and point out that our typical limit is £5,000, and also ask them to develop their application a bit more, because to be honest, it's pretty weak on detail as to what's being provided or any quotes of who's what the materials being used. For example, I don't know whether there's additional information behind it, but also when they say they haven't applied for any other grants to support the project, I sort of just think there needs to do a bit more work on it. So we should encourage them to develop it before they bring it back.
Right.
I did discuss that with them today, and I said I thought that's probably what you would decide to do, and they haven't got a quote, and they've been delayed by all the COVID issues, and they seemed quite happy to have it delayed until next year.
Okay, good. So you propose that we defer it? Jason, are you seconding it? Thank you. All those in favour of deferring?
Well, I'm happy to defer it, provided it doesn't have to close because of what's not been allocated to it. I would hate to think that such a provision has to close because things like nurseries and play schools and children's facilities, preschool facilities are a much needed thing for such as working mums or mums that need actually to go to a unit where there are other mums there possibly as well, not only just for the children but for their own mental benefit as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, Councillor Robertson. I think what we can do is, if there is any danger of the institution in any way failing, we can have an extraordinary meeting of an emergency meeting. Councillor Dixon, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I don't think it would have to close, so I think yeah, it should be okay.
But if anything like that cropped up, we'd have an emergency meeting about it. We wouldn't just say, oh well, it has to wait till September.
I spoke to them today again about that, and they said it's fine as long as it's dry. If it rains, they're going to use half of it, so there's no question of it being closed.
Right, thank you. That is the end of our grant applications, and we've got through it quite nicely. We move on now to, and I'm going to cheer here, hooray, Holly Library!
Don't forget you're going out on Zoom.
Well, I know it's been so long in the gestation, and finally Cabinet, we're just noting this, it's not there's no no controversy, nothing to grant or anything, but Cabinet finally approved it. It's now with the lawyers, so it'll probably take another 20 or 30 years, but Councillor Oak.
Yeah, can we just send a thank you to the team who have worked hard on getting this done. I think that they need a good pat on the back.
Yes, they do. They're all the people involved in Holly, and Liz has done an enormous amount of work with them. I happen to know this. She's gone above and beyond her duties with this one. Thank you. Yeah. So yes, so that is to note. Do we note that finally it's shifting? We have put. We told this to finance and to full council. I'm pretty, yeah, it was in the budget that we have, as well as the 15,000 we're expecting them to own practically as soon as they're able to open the door, as soon as they own it. We put 30,000 from unallocated funds into an allocated for the library should it be needed. And can we note the survey report that we've all had? That was part of our papers. I think we've seen it before, actually. I mean, I've seen it before. And it's just, it's to let us know the state of the physical building, and we're just noting it, that they've submitted it. The next item is Civic Hall. And it's a report from the trustees on the current situation. Do we have anybody?
Judith has left us, hasn't she?
Yes, she's obviously forgotten she was supposed to do this bit. Is there anything to report, Kath? Anything we're not likely to already know?
Well, you've got the report. You had the report within the grant documents, don't you?
Of course we did, yes.
Yeah,
we've got the written report.
A summary of where we are, so I'm sure she feels that that's sufficient.
That's sufficient. So it is to note anyway, rather than to approve anything. So do we note that?
No, Chair, sorry, can I just ask, have we actually seen that? Because I can't see it on the agenda page.
I think it's in with the
Is it further down on the agenda itself? And those
no, well, it's in both places, but it actually appears with her grant applications.
Item N.
Right, okay. Yeah. I did see. Yeah, I have seen that then. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was looking.
Councillor Dixon, were you wanting to speak?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest we note it.
Yeah, thank you. Noted.
Sorry.
Councillor Hogley?
Chair, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's really useful to see an outline of their priorities. I guess what we need to maybe guide them is that with our budget setting for next year, dare I say, in the autumn, we need some indicative figures to guide this, because, you know, in tonight's meeting, we've basically spent up the earmark reserves that we had for the Civic Hall. And I know there was some, because as I recall, when we were setting the budget this last year, actually the message from them was that they probably didn't really need much money. And then of course, as it transpires, because of the tenders that came in and things, that more money was required, which is fine. But I think we as a council have a I've always thought we have a bit of a tacit commitment that there will be money to support our owned assets if and when required. So obviously the £30,000 was set aside to support that. Clearly we've spent that. So I personally, I would look to, when setting next year's budget, to setting some money aside, but ideally it would be building up or having a rainy day fund, not just expecting to empty that at the beginning of the next year. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need some indication of indicative costs of some of these projects, which should be driven by their experience of doing the current project, because that will give them an idea of the cost increments.
Mind you, it's worth our all remembering that everything over the next 5 or 6 or 10 years is going to cost more and more and more and more. We're in for a very bad time. Because, I mean, I'm not saying the money shouldn't have been spent on saving lives. I'm just saying we've spent a lot as a nation. Public toilets, right. Tom and Doug's. Tom first, then Doug's.
Doug's. I was bringing you towards Doug's attention.
Oh, right, Doug, sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, I just noticed at the bottom of their report, there's they talk about what they want to do in years 2 and 3 and 4 and the 5-year plan. And on there is the creation of 2 further small lettable meeting rooms. As the people who actually own the building, which is us, I do think we do need to think a lot more strategically about public spaces in Holmfirth. We've got the Civic, which we are effectively the key holders for. The Phoenix Centre, which is still council run, is increasingly underused, and I'm not sure what the long-term prospects for that are. And then obviously just over the road now, we've got the Tech that's also developing meeting rooms. And I don't, we shouldn't be creating competitive spaces or extra spaces when there's more space than there is demand, really. So I just think there needs to be some sort of audit about, and realism about, seeing the facilities in the town as a whole, as there needs to be in Honley. But Honley's a lot less. There's a lot fewer opportunities in Honley. You haven't got
there's practically nowhere to meet in Honley. Yeah. Councillor Dixon, then Councillor Brooke.
I agree with what Doug said. With the club room, it might be useful for once we can get back together and have an actual visit to the Civic Hall for people who aren't aware of all the different rooms and all the nooks it has.
Yeah.
Because the club room is a room. It's underneath the stage in the main room down below, and it's been prone to flooding, and it's very damp, and it's got problems down there. So I totally think that needs redecorating and refurbishing, because that's used by people who do productions there, and like when bands are playing and stuff like that as a changing rooms. So I think I'm in favour of that being like refurbished, and I think that's how they may want to rent that out as like an additional room as well as the stage or something like that. I know what you mean about the other parts as well, though. It's about us probably working together with the assets and making best use of what we can do in the area. And it may be that we have to prioritise something else before that first, well, it's something we can always talk about with the Civic Hall Trust. They're a good group, and they're willing to listen.
Yeah, I think it's a discussion worth having, because they are the 3 buildings you talked about, Doug, so very different from each other, and they have different strengths and weaknesses, and it must be possible for us to organise it for all of them to make the maximum amount of money they can, and not get into competing for the same things that are catered for. Anyway, Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, just to let some of the councillors know, when they first took over the Civic Hall, part of their working plan was to create some meeting rooms in the Civic Hall to save money. They're only going from what they did on their business plan right at the beginning. Regarding the room underneath the stage, we have council meetings in that room. when the art festival's been on and stuff like that. So it is a, you know, it is a room that needs to be upgraded to a better situation. But as I say, if you go back to the business plan originally, that were agreed that we were going to create meeting rooms for input.
Well, and every room needs to be, I mean, if somebody said it was damp and miserable, and we don't want damp, I mean, we own the building, we've got to maintain it, you know, whatever happens. So so that's noted. Are we on to the loos now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's been, we've managed pretty well through the crisis, and it's still going. Obviously donations are down because there have been very few visitors in comparison, and things, we're going to, we've got a working party that had its first meeting last week about putting out to tender for the contracts, which we haven't done for some time, and we are actually legally obliged to do so on a regular basis. So we are putting together the nature of the tender and how it'll be advertised and what it'll cover and all the rest. And that is in hand and will be brought back to full council.
What is that for, Pat? Sorry, you're breaking
maintenance up. The whole maintenance thing, the cask bit, which is the loos, and the service provision bit, which is the benches, and so it's all, we have to put it out for tender. It's not been put, it hasn't been put out for tender for some consider. That is not to say that we are in any way dissatisfied with our current arrangements, but we are legally obliged to put it out for tender.
That's to be correctly done, yeah.
Yeah. So that will be happening. And then Garside Buildings has proved, God, the poor souls, they've had a bad year. they've been blighted when they move in. Obviously, they're on a rent holiday at the moment, but they aren't open. And we wouldn't be making, it's not like we'd be making money from somebody else. So the electricity bill, there was, funny enough, a question from a member of the public about their electricity. And they do have a meter, but it so it's measurable how much they are using as opposed to the rest of the building. But they can't.
Is it for the electricity?
Yeah.
It does seem a colossal amount of electricity that's being used.
That's right. And I'm about to come on to that. Give me a moment. They have had to dry out wet carpets and dry out the whole building because our lavatory flooded them.
Yes, but we have replaced that for them, haven't we? So
yes, but they had to dry it out and it cost them a lot of money. So we're in the process right now of working out what proportion of that huge bill is for them, because we caused the flooding, and certainly finance, was it, discussed this, or full council, or both. It was finance. We caused the flooding, and it was our feeling that we should pay the bulk of the cost of drying out after the flooding. And Rich is currently working on what proportion of that money will be us and what proportion will be them, because they've not been in there using electricity. They've only been using electricity because we flooded them. Councillor Hogley.
I was just going to say that Rich has done that calculation now.
Actually, yes, he has. We've got a note. Yeah.
Yeah. So the.
Have you got it in front of you?
I have. Yeah.
Oh, good.
It was. Yeah, they were sent around with the
That's right.
Updated agenda or Zoom link or whatever, which says that so working out the electricity usage, the proposal is that we charge Monty's Loft £359.36, which is a reduction of £280, which is estimated as the amount of the cost during that period that the carpets were drying out during December and January. That was down to the flooding. So we're reducing the amount that they're paying because of our responsibility for that element. And Rich has done a calculation which reflects what we would typically pay in a December and a January, and then see what the increment is on top. And it's suggested, I mean, everyone should have sight of this email if they've
Yes,
picked it up.
Yeah.
So let me just see what as I said, the total bill for December 2020, so there's quite a lot of science that goes behind it, but he's used last year's December usage when the parish council paid around £85 for its electricity usage. So the estimate was that Monty's Loft probably was about £261.69. And then he says, if we're very generous and say that the parish council's usage and costs were down to COVID, we might say the parish council's usage was around £65 for the month, and Monty's Loft was around £280. We could thus discount £280 from Monty's Loft's bill, leading to the new invoice. Personally, I would support that approach because I think the flooding and the necessary heating to dry it out, I think we should, we've already accepted responsibility for that, and I think it's an appropriate thing to do.
So can I just come in there? So we've paid for the carpets drying, and then we paid for some new carpet and the floor re-screeding, I understood it to say. Am I correct there?
Yeah.
So we paid for the old carpets to be dried out, and then we paid for some new carpet and the floor re-screeding because it wasn't level enough or something. Am I right there?
Yes, I think when the old carpets were dried out, it was clear they weren't usable.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's a shame. I mean, we might have saved a bit of money on electricity, but we were trying to save bigger money on the new carpet.
That we've used for drying out the carpets, wouldn't we, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And have we not paid for some stock that was on the floor as well?
It was about £150, something like that.
Yeah. Right. Well, we have got to think that so far we haven't drawn a penny for this place. And what we've done so far is just keep putting money in. And we haven't drawn anything back from it at all. Not a thing as yet. So we are going to have to be mindful that all these bits of things that keep costing money, like have we paid for this internal door as well?
Yep, that's on the agenda to note.
Pardon?
That's coming up in a minute. And yes, we agreed that we would pay for that because it is our premises and it benefits us to have decent floors and decent doors.
Yeah, so that's fair enough. But this door, they wanted another internal door, didn't they? Fitting a glass internal door.
Yeah, that was to preserve the warmth and what have you. We agreed some time ago that was a good investment for us to make.
So we've paid for that as well, have
yes. We? Councillor Dixon, can I?
Originally, we did put some money aside in to do some works on the room to make it readable ourselves. And we didn't end up actually spending hardly any of that budget because the tenants came in and did a lot of the work themselves.
Yeah,
so they didn't
that's
need
true.
any of that spending.
Yeah.
So the money we spent on the doors came out of that budget, and we're still majorly under budget, I think, including the £1,000 we spent on the floor as well, which was due to our flooding. The flooding occurred, I think, in December, early December or something like that. And the work hasn't been done since then. So obviously the floor needed to be dried out if we're getting some more customers in. So they dried the floor out, and then once it's closed, they've got the works and got it replaced. So I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's been unfortunate. Sandra, who's running the shop, it's been an unfortunate start to it with COVID and everything, and it's been very difficult. There's not as many customers around, not as many people in Home Fair. So we can't blame her for that, but hopefully that in the months to come, as Home Fair reopens, as we get some festivals going on and things like that, a good summer hopefully, we should be able to get our rent coming in then, and the business will be successful. But yeah. It's been very difficult, and whenever I've seen her down at the shop, she's always been very cheerful and very optimistic and determined to get through all the adversity that she's gone through so far. And we're not a charity, but I think we should continue to support her at the start, and hopefully we'll see some good from this in the end.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, Councillor Dixon's just said there, we're looking after our own building there, you know, for our own purposes at the end of the day. But I think we should be patting ourselves on the back. We've done the right thing regarding this flooding. We've admitted liability. We've sorted the problem out. We should be noting saying, well done to ourselves. We've done the right thing in not letting this woman suffer. So, you know, yes, it was an unfortunate accident, but we stepped up to the mark and done the right thing.
Yeah. And it's an investment in a building that, you know, should she move on or should she fail, it's a better building as a result of having that door and having the new floor. So, right.
Are we going ahead with this one for the staff report, difficulties in getting car parking spaces? And so they're wanting preferential treatment with regards parking the vehicles. Are we going ahead with that as well?
We're looking at what we can do about that, yeah. We don't know exactly what we're going to do. We're still looking at that. Am I right, Liz?
Well, I'm sort of waiting for some direction, really, from the committee.
Right. Councillor Hogley.
To be honest, there isn't anything obvious we could do about that, since the unless Kirklees Car Parking agree to issue us with some sort of permit which allows a I don't know, 50, well, I don't know how long it takes the maintenance contractor to do the checks, but let's say they take 20 minutes or something, whether we could contact Kirklees Car Parking and ask if there's a facility for getting a, well, even if, to be fair, we were to pay, well, I was going to say, actually, it's not, sorry, go around circles here, because I was just thinking it's not the cost of it, is it? It's just finding a space. Well, yeah, unless, I don't think, I'd be very surprised if we were permitted to block out a particular car parking space, given its revenue generation for Kirklees, and also, frankly, local people want to use the spaces. So I think, unfortunately, it's just one of those things. If it was a payment thing, then I think perhaps we could provide a permit, which meant they didn't have to pay 20p each time. But I think if it's blocking out a space, I'm not quite sure there's a lot we can do about it. And presumably, as part of the maintenance and the contract review, is recognition that the person who does it has to be aware that parking isn't always available on site.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they were also
yes, it's actually, that's a good point, Rachel. We should, you know, make them aware of that. Sorry, Liz.
I think they wondered. I think they were hoping they could have permission to park up outside the toilets, but I don't think that should be recommended because it blocks the exit from the car park and the buses and everything. Yeah. So I don't think that's popular.
And then, you know, on a bank holiday weekend, somebody will see that and think, oh, I'll park there as well. I mean, it'll.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are we saying that really we can't see much that we can do to help them there?
No.
No.
Well, I don't think it's fair on anybody else that has any businesses within the vicinity, because they too should, you know, if they have problems, they too will want preferential parking spaces. And by the time they finish, then be none left for anybody else. It's a case of, you know, if you work in Home Firth and you find yourself a car parking space, then that's good. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen all the time. And just to give preferential treatment to somebody who has a little business in really absolutely in the centre, and allowing them to park whatever charges that we might pay them or they might not pay, then I think it will open up a major can of worms, because everybody that has businesses in Home Firth then will want that preferential treatment as well.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't blame them either.
Thank you. To note that we had a letter of thanks from the River Home Connections for the Thongsbridge Wild Space project.
Very Chair, Councillor Carey had his hand up at the end.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know if you.
It was only a thought, really. I mean, there's clearly a lot of traders park on yellow lines to unload. If they're in and out, I mean, something we used to do in my section at work, we had a laminated sign we just put in the window, a bit like Nurse on Call. It's not technically legally going to guarantee you stop getting a ticket, but if there was a sign that says checking on toilets, you know, then I would have thought if they park sensibly outside the post office where there's a loading bay anyway, and people park on those yellows there. But I don't think we can authorise that. I think they can just take the chances. Yeah. But you know, if it was me, I'd just park there and I'd put a sign in the window saying I'm maintaining the toilets back in 5 minutes.
We definitely cannot authorise parking on a yellow line, Councillor Carr.
Well, anybody can park on a yellow line for 5 minutes because you're always allowed 5 minutes grace anyway.
All right.
But I don't know how long it takes them to do what they need to do.
I think it's probably more than 5 minutes. Okay, we've had the letter of thanks from River Home Connections, which we note. The bins and cabinets next to the Lowe's, we're still talking to the various departments in Kirklees Council, and it will be resolved when it's resolved. They've agreed to remove some of them and we've got other things to sort. That is the end of the agenda. Councillor Dixon.
Will they be replacing the sharp object bin or not?
They didn't say they were going to replace it. They just said that particular model's defunct. So I guess, do you want me to ask them to replace it?
We probably should find out, yeah, because that's where people are going to need a sharp spin, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's a public toilet, do you need to have one of these sharp bin object outside them? Is there a law or rule about this? I don't know. I don't know. Do we need it? Do we not need it? How well used is it? I don't know.
Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, we had this discussion before and we said like as a community asset, we need that there because people know where to go and put these sharp needles. You know, it's like if we take it away, where they're going to put it. And, you know, I think as a council, we need to have something where people know where to put these needles as a safety. So maybe we need to look about replacing it. Maybe not in the exact position where it is, but somewhere where it is notable, where people can put these needles to keep the rest of the community safe.
Councillor Carr?
You're muted, Dougs.
You mute.
Yeah, well, in my youth, I set up needle exchange projects. That's what I did as a HIV outreach, doing outreach work with drug users. And to be honest, they've always been a problem because they get misused. A lot of users don't use them anyway. And usually the better sites are near the pharmacist because a lot of drug users tend to have a relationship with the pharmacist to get meds. And so I would have thought a better place actually to locate it would be by the entrance to the pharmacy in the centre of Holmfirth, because there's that sort of parking bay and there's a bit of a notice board there. And also it's not a very obvious place if people, you know, to go and drop something. You can do it fairly, and people don't necessarily notice. But the issue is really most users they're either quite good anyway and they use sharp spins, or they just put it in a beer tin and crush it, which is probably as good as method of anything. Or they just chuck it in the gutter and don't care where they leave it. And so, you know, the people who are the problem, no matter where you put them, probably aren't going to use them. But for the people, there is some sort of sensible drug users out there that if there was somewhere where they could use, that might be a better location for it. But I'm sure there's no legal requirement whatsoever to have one near a public toilet.
Okay. And the issue of the bike sheds continues, and we continue to liaise with Kirklees officers. I think that's the end of the meeting, 4 minutes early.
Really good. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
See you all next time. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.